The red notification blinked once on Victor Hale's phone. Just once. He almost ignored it. Victor Hale owned half the skyline of the city. Glass towers with his name etched in steel and silence. A man who negotiated billion-naira contracts before breakfast did not jump at alerts. Alerts jumped for him. But this one came from a place he never trusted technology to touch. Home. Specifically, Camera 7, East Wing Playroom. The mansion was quiet at this hour. Too quiet. The kind of silence that crept under doors and wrapped itself around memories you worked hard to bury. Victor stood alone in his office, jacket still on, tie loosened but not removed. The lights of the city shimmered outside the floor-to-ceiling windows like a lie, bright, alive, indifferent. He glanced at the notification again. Motion detected. He frowned. His son's routine was strict. Medical specialists, therapists, structured play. Every minute accounted for. No surprises. No deviations. That was the rule. And rules were how Victor survived. He tapped the screen. The camera feed loaded slowly, buffering as if it, too, was hesitant about what it was about to show. The image sharpened. Victor's breath caught. The playroom appeared normal at first glance. Soft beige walls, sensory toys neatly arranged, shelves labeled with military precision. Sunlight filtered through the tall windows, painting golden lines across the floor. Then he saw her. The nanny. Elena. She was seated on the floor, not on the approved therapy mat, but directly on the rug Victor had imported from Morocco because a consultant once said natural fibers calm children. She was barefoot. Barefoot was against the rules. And in front of her sat Noah. Victor leaned closer to the screen. Noah Hale, 6 years old, small for his age, dark curls falling into eyes that watched the world like it was always about to leave him behind. His fingers twisted nervously at the hem of his oversized sweater. Noah did not speak. He had never spoken. Doctors used words like selective mutism, neurological delay, trauma response. Victor used none of them. Words were dangerous. Words made hope. Hope made promises. And promises, Victor knew too well, broke people. On the screen, Elena smiled gently at Noah. Not the professional, measured smile Victor expected, but something softer, real. She held up her hand. Victor frowned deeper. She wasn't holding a flashcard. No speech tablet. No approved visual aid. She tapped her chest once. Slowly. Then she pointed to Noah. Her lips moved. Victor leaned forward, volume up. The room was silent. The camera had no audio. His jaw tightened. What is she doing? Elena picked up a small wooden toy, a simple carved bird Victor didn't remember authorizing. She placed it between them. She tapped the bird. Then she exaggerated the movement of her mouth. Victor felt a sudden, irrational surge of anger. This isn't part of the plan. Noah watched her carefully. His eyes flicked to the door once, a habit Victor recognized too well. Always checking, always expecting someone to stop him. Elena waited. She didn't rush. She didn't fill the silence. She simply waited. Victor's fingers curled into a fist. Then Noah did something he had never done on any camera, in any report, in any doctor's office. He lifted his head, and his lips moved. Victor froze. The city outside vanished. The office disappeared. The past, his past, rose like a tide. No sound came through the feed, but Victor saw it clearly. Noah's mouth shaped something. One syllable. Elena's eyes widened, her hand flying to her mouth. She shook her head slightly, not in disbelief, but in warning. She leaned closer, lowering her voice though the camera could not hear. Noah tried again. This time, his lips trembled. Victor's chest tightened painfully. No. Elena reached out, not touching him, just close enough to let Noah know she was there. She nodded, slowly, encouraging. Victor's heart slammed against his ribs. This is impossible. The doctors had said. The specialists had promised. The therapists had concluded. Noah could not. Elena broke into tears. Silent tears, streaming down her face as she clapped once. Softly, carefully, like she was afraid applause might scare the moment away. Noah smiled. A real smile. Not the polite, practiced one Victor saw during assessments. This was different. This was alive. Victor staggered back from the desk, bumping into his chair. The phone slipped from his hand and clattered onto the polished wood. He stared at it like it might explode. For 6 years, Victor Hale had lived with the quiet. The quiet that began the night his wife died. The quiet that settled into Noah's throat like a lock. The quiet that turned a mansion into a mausoleum. And now a nanny he had hired through an agency, a woman with no medical degree, no authorization, no permission, was breaking the quiet. His first instinct was fury. Pure, consuming fury. She violated protocol. She crossed boundaries. She risked damaging his son. He grabbed the phone again, hands shaking, and rewound the footage. Again, again, again. Each time, he saw the same thing. The same impossible movement. The same fragile miracle. And something else. Something that made his stomach drop. Elena glanced toward the corner of the room. Toward the camera. She knew. Victor's blood ran cold. She wasn't hiding. She wasn't afraid. She met the camera's unblinking eye and, for a fraction of a second, looked straight into it. Straight at him. Not guilty. Not defiant. But pleading. The door to Victor's office opened softly. "Sir?" His assistant, Daniel, asked cautiously. "You asked to be notified when you arrived." Victor didn't look away from the screen. "How long?" he said slowly, voice dangerously calm. "Has the nanny been deviating from the schedule?" Daniel hesitated. "Sir." Victor turned. Daniel had worked for him for 8 years. He had seen Victor fire executives with a smile and dismantle companies with a signature. But he had never seen Victor's eyes like this. "Check the logs," Victor said. "Every camera. Every day." Daniel swallowed. "Right away." As the door closed, Victor sank into his chair. His reflection stared back at him from the darkened screen. Older than his 42 years, grief etched deep into the lines around his eyes. He thought of Noah as a baby, gurgling sounds cut short by tragedy. He thought of the doctors shaking their heads. He thought of the countless nights standing outside Noah's room, whispering words he would never hear. And now, someone else had heard them. Someone else had unlocked something Victor could not. The phone vibrated again. Another alert. Camera 7. Victor's pulse thundered. He tapped it. The playroom was empty. Elena was gone. Noah sat alone on the rug, clutching the wooden bird. His lips moved. Victor leaned in, heart in his throat. Noah looked toward the door. Then, slowly, deliberately, he looked straight at the camera and smiled. Victor Hale had built an empire on control. But as he stared at the screen, one truth shattered everything he believed. Whatever Elena was doing with his son, it was working. And Victor had no idea whether to stop her or protect her at all costs. End of part 1. Victor Hale did not sleep that night. Sleep required surrender, and surrender was a luxury Victor had buried alongside his wife. Instead, he sat in the darkened office of his mansion, surrounded by screens. 12 live camera feeds glowed softly, each one a silent witness to a life carefully engineered to avoid pain. Except pain had found its way in anyway. through a word, or almost a word. Victor replayed the footage again, slower this time, frame by frame. He watched Noah's lips, the slight tremble, the effort it took for his son to shape something the world had denied him for 6 long years. He watched Elena's reaction, the way her shoulders shook, the way she fought to keep her emotions from overwhelming the moment. This wasn't recklessness. It was restraint. And that unsettled him more than any rule-breaking ever could. At 3:17 a.m., Daniel returned. "I checked the logs, sir," he said quietly, standing just inside the door. "You were right. She's been deviating from the schedule." Victor didn't look up. "How long?" Daniel hesitated. 6 weeks. Victor's jaw tightened. 6 weeks of unsanctioned interaction. 6 weeks of unrecorded progress. 6 weeks of something happening right under his roof without his knowledge. "Explain," Victor said. Daniel stepped closer, holding a tablet. "She hasn't skipped therapies. She hasn't cancelled sessions. She's adjusted them, shortened some, replaced others with free play." Victor finally looked at him. "Free play?" "Yes, sir. Unstructured interaction. No flashcards. No prompts. No pressure." Victor scoffed. "That goes against every specialist recommendation." "Yes," Daniel said carefully. "But, sir." Victor's eyes narrowed. "But." Daniel swallowed. "The data shows a reduction in Noah's anxiety markers during those periods. Heart rate steadier. Less repetitive behavior. Improved eye contact." Victor leaned back slowly. Science. Numbers. Proof. They were the only language he trusted. "And the wooden bird?" Victor asked. Daniel scrolled. "Hand-carved. She brought it from outside. Not logged." Victor stood abruptly. "Bring her to me." Daniel stiffened. "Now." "Yes, now." "She's off duty today. She left the premises an hour ago." Victor's eyes flashed. "Then find her." Elena knew the moment the call came that something had changed. She stood at the small bus stop near the edge of the estate, the city still half asleep around her. The phone vibrated in her hand, the number unfamiliar but the weight of it unmistakable. "Miss Cruz," Daniel's voice said when she answered. "Mr. Hale requests your presence immediately." Elena closed her eyes. She had known this day would come. "I understand," she said calmly. "I'll return." As the line went dead, Elena stared down at her hands. They were still trembling from earlier. From Noah. From the sound she hadn't expected to hear so soon, or ever. She had broken a rule. No, she had broken many. And she would do it again if it meant protecting that fragile, miraculous moment. Victor waited in the sitting room, not his office. It was intentional. The sitting room was where he received guests, not employees. Where deals were sealed and truths exposed. The high ceiling and neutral tones made everyone feel small. Elena entered quietly, posture straight, eyes forward. She was younger than Victor remembered, mid-20s, maybe. Dark hair pulled back neatly, face bare of makeup. She wore no jewelry except a thin silver chain around her neck. Victor studied her like a problem to be solved. "Sit," he said. She did. Silence stretched between them, thick and deliberate. "You know why you're here," Victor said. "Yes," Elena replied. "Then explain," he said coldly. "Explain why you thought it appropriate to override medical professionals and experiment with my son." Elena met his gaze without flinching. "I didn't experiment." Victor laughed once, humorless. "You taught him to speak without authorization." "I didn't teach him to speak," she said gently. "I gave him permission to try." The words hit harder than Victor expected. Permission, he snapped. You think I haven't given him permission? Elena's voice softened. You gave him everything else. Structure, safety, silence. Victor stood. Watch your tone. Elena stood too. I won't, she said quietly, because this isn't about me keeping my job. It's about Noah keeping his voice. Victor froze. No one spoke Noah's name like that. Not with certainty. Not with hope. You crossed a line, Victor said. Yes, Elena agreed. I crossed yours. She took a breath. And I crossed it because someone had to. Victor turned away, pacing. You don't know what he's been through. Elena's hands clenched at her sides. Neither do you. Victor spun around. Excuse me. You know what happened to him, she corrected. But you don't know how it feels inside his chest. Because no one ever taught you how to listen without demanding answers. The room went deadly still. Victor stared at her, stunned, not by the audacity, but by the truth slicing through his defenses. You have 5 minutes, he said coldly. Use them wisely. Elena nodded. My brother was mute, she began. Victor stiffened. He wasn't born that way, Elena continued. He stopped speaking after our father died. Everyone said it was trauma. They pushed him, tested him, labeled him. She swallowed. He never spoke again. Victor's heart thudded. I studied child development because of him, she said. Not to fix children, but to understand them. Noah doesn't lack language. He lacks safety in expression. Victor shook his head. You're not a doctor. No, Elena agreed. I'm a listener. She reached into her bag slowly, carefully, and pulled out the wooden bird. I made this with him, she said. Not today. Weeks ago. He chose the shape. He traced the wings. He tapped it when he wanted me to name it. Victor stared at the bird. That's when it started, Elena continued. Not today. Today was just when he felt brave enough to try. Victor's voice cracked despite himself. What did he say? Elena hesitated. Victor's fists clenched. Tell me. He said, she smiled softly. He said BA. Victor laughed, a broken sound halfway to a sob. One sound, he whispered. One sound, Elena nodded. But it came from him. Silence fell again, different this time. Fragile. Alive. Victor sank back into his chair, suddenly exhausted. You should have told me, he said quietly. I wanted to, Elena replied. But I was afraid you'd stop it. Victor closed his eyes. She was right. I need to protect him, Victor said. So do I, Elena replied. Their eyes met. For the first time, they were not enemies. They were terrified allies standing on the edge of something extraordinary. What you're doing, Victor said slowly, puts him at risk. So does keeping him silent, Elena countered. Victor exhaled sharply. From this moment on, he said, nothing happens without my knowledge. Elena nodded. Agreed. And if this hurts him, Victor's voice broke. I will never forgive myself. Elena stepped closer. If you don't let him try, she said softly, he may never forgive you. Victor swallowed hard. A faint sound echoed through the mansion. Both of them froze. A sound that did not belong to the silence. A soft thump. Then another. Footsteps. Small ones. They turned as Noah appeared in the doorway, clutching the wooden bird. His eyes flicked between them. Victor stood slowly. Noah. The boy hesitated. Elena knelt. It's okay, she whispered. You're safe. Noah looked at Victor. Really looked at him. His lips parted. Victor's breath stopped. Noah opened his mouth, and the effort showed, every muscle trembling with fear and determination. "Da." The sound broke, but it existed. Victor dropped to his knees. Tears streamed freely down his face as he reached out, not touching, just like Elena had taught him. "I'm here," Victor whispered. "I'm listening." Noah smiled, and in that moment, Victor understood something terrifying and beautiful. The silence had never been empty. It had been waiting. The sound Noah made was small, fragile, but it shattered something in the mansion that had been sealed shut for years. Victor Hale stayed on his knees long after Noah retreated back behind Elena's legs, clutching the wooden bird like a shield. His chest rose and fell unevenly, as though he had just surfaced from deep water. He had faced hostile takeovers, government investigations, men who smiled while sharpening knives behind their backs. None of that compared to this. A broken syllable. A beginning. Victor stood slowly, wiping his face with the back of his hand. He straightened his jacket out of habit, then stopped himself. For once, appearances didn't matter. Elena rose carefully, keeping one hand near Noah without touching him. She had learned that Noah needed space to choose connection, not be pulled into it. Victor noticed. Everything felt different now. "I want to be part of this," Victor said quietly. Elena studied him. "Then you'll have to unlearn some things." Victor almost smiled. Almost. The next few days passed in cautious balance. Victor canceled 2 meetings and moved 3 others to video calls. He installed a chair in the playroom, not to dominate the space, but to observe. Sometimes he sat silently. Sometimes he left. Elena continued what she had started, now under Victor's watchful eyes. No drills, no pressure, just moments. She turned everyday actions into invitations instead of commands. Rolling a ball and waiting, tapping objects and pausing, naming feelings instead of demanding responses. Noah responded slowly, but he responded. A hum here, a breathy sound there. One afternoon, Victor heard something unmistakable. A laugh. It burst out of Noah unexpectedly, surprising even him. He clapped his hands over his mouth, eyes wide, as if afraid the sound might get him in trouble. Victor's heart nearly stopped. Elena laughed too, soft, delighted, unrestrained. Victor had never heard that sound in his house. He realized then how much of Noah's world had been built around not disturbing him. Silence had been a prison disguised as protection. But prisons had guards. And Victor Hale had enemies. The email arrived on a Thursday morning. Subject: Developmental Compliance Review, Hale Residence. Victor read it once. Then again. Then a third time, slower. "Unscheduled audit," he muttered. Daniel stood near the desk, face tense. "They're responding to an anonymous report, sir." Victor's eyes darkened. "From whom?" Daniel hesitated. "The agency." "Elena." Victor's fist slammed into the desk. "They reported her." "Not exactly," Daniel said carefully. "They reported irregular methods. Unlicensed intervention." Victor exhaled sharply. He knew how this worked. An audit meant questions. Questions meant scrutiny. And scrutiny meant Noah could be labeled again. Reclassified, relocated, removed for his own good. Victor stood. "How long?" "Inspectors arrive in 48 hours." Victor's mind raced. Regulatory bodies did not care about miracles. They cared about forms, data, compliance. What happens if they decide she's harmful? Victor asked. Daniel didn't answer. He didn't need to. Elena found out an hour later. She didn't cry. She didn't panic. She nodded slowly, as if she had been expecting this knock at the door all along. "They'll try to stop this," she said calmly. Victor paced the room. "They won't take him." "They might," Elena said gently, "if they decide his environment is unsafe." Victor stopped pacing. "This is my house." "And he is their jurisdiction," Elena replied. Victor stared at her. This was the world he knew. Power colliding with rules written by people who never stepped inside the lives they controlled. "We'll prepare," Victor said. "We'll show them the data." Elena shook her head. "That won't be enough." "Why not?" "Because Noah's progress doesn't fit their timeline," she said. "And progress that can't be predicted scares people." Victor leaned against the table, suddenly exhausted. "What do we do?" he asked. Elena looked toward the playroom, where Noah was lining up his toy animals in careful rows. "We protect his choice," she said. The inspectors arrived early. 2 women and 1 man, all in neutral suits, all with polite smiles and eyes that missed nothing. Noah was ushered upstairs with Daniel. Elena stood beside Victor in the sitting room, hands clasped, shoulders steady. "Mr. Hale," the lead inspector said, "thank you for your cooperation." Victor nodded. "Of course." They asked about schedules, certifications, protocols. Victor answered every question with precision. Elena spoke only when addressed. Then the questions changed. "We understand," the inspector said, "that your son has recently shown vocalization." Victor's jaw tightened. "Yes." "And this coincided with changes in care." "It coincided with trust," Victor said evenly. The inspector smiled thinly. "Mr. Hale, our concern is that unregulated methods may cause emotional distress or regression." Elena spoke then, her voice calm but firm. Respectfully, he was already distressed. The inspector turned to her. "Ms. Cruz, you are not licensed to conduct speech therapy." "I'm not conducting therapy," Elena replied. "I'm communicating." "That distinction is not recognized under our guidelines." Victor stepped forward. "Then your guidelines are incomplete." Silence fell. The inspector's eyes hardened slightly. "Mr. Hale, please remember, our priority is the child's welfare." Victor met her gaze. "So is mine." They requested access to footage. Victor hesitated, then nodded. "Camera 7, he said. The footage played. The inspectors watched. They saw Noah's fear, his effort, his smile. They saw Elena's restraint. The room stayed quiet long after the video ended. One inspector cleared her throat. "This is unusual." "That's one word for it," Victor said. "We'll need to observe further," she said. Victor's heart sank. "How?" Elena asked. The inspector looked at her. "By temporarily suspending your duties." The words hit like a slap. Elena inhaled sharply. Victor's voice dropped. "No, it's standard procedure." "I said no." "Mr. Hale." "No," Victor repeated. "She stays." The inspector's smile vanished. "Then we escalate." Victor didn't hesitate. "Then we fight." That night, the mansion felt different. Heavy. Elena packed her bag quietly in the guest room, hands shaking now that she was alone. She had known this might happen. Still, it hurt. There was a soft knock. Victor stood in the doorway. "They can't force this immediately," he said. "We have time." Elena nodded. "Time doesn't always help children." Victor stepped inside. "Why didn't you tell me about your brother?" Elena sat on the bed. "Because I didn't want pity." "I'm not offering pity," Victor said. "I'm offering protection." She looked up at him. That's not the same thing. No, Victor admitted, but it's what I have. A small sound echoed from the hallway. Both of them froze. Footsteps. Then Noah appeared, rubbing his eyes, wooden bird tucked under his arm. He looked between them, then at Elena. His lips trembled. Victor crouched instinctively. "It's okay," he said softly. "She's here." Noah took a step toward Elena. Then another. Elena knelt. Noah pressed the bird into her hands. Then, slowly, painfully, "No," he whispered. The word was broken. Imperfect, but unmistakable. Elena gasped, tears spilling freely now. Victor felt his chest split open. Noah shook his head, panic rising. "No, go." Elena wrapped her arms around him, careful, grounding. "I'm not going anywhere tonight," she whispered. Victor made a decision in that moment, one that would change everything. "They won't take her," he said aloud. Noah looked up at him. Victor met his son's eyes. "I promise," Victor said. "I'm listening now." Outside the mansion, unseen and unnoticed, a car idled at the gate longer than necessary. Someone was watching, and they were listening too. The car at the gate did not go unnoticed for long. Victor Hale had spent his life sensing danger before it announced itself. You didn't build an empire by ignoring patterns, and the idling engine outside his property at 11:47 p.m. was a pattern screaming for attention. He watched it from the security monitor in his study, fingers steepled beneath his chin. "Who is it?" he asked quietly. Daniel checked the system. No plates logged. "They're just sitting." Victor's eyes narrowed. "They want us to see them." Inside the mansion, the lights were low. Noah had finally fallen asleep after hours of restless turning, his small hand still clutching Elena's sleeve even in dreams. Elena sat on the edge of the bed, afraid that if she moved, the fragile sense of safety might break. She had heard Noah say no. A full word. Not a sound. Not a fragment. A choice. And that terrified her more than it thrilled her. Because words changed things. Words brought attention. Words invited consequences. Victor entered quietly. "He's asleep," Elena whispered. Victor nodded. "For now." They stepped into the hallway, closing the door softly behind them. "There's someone outside," Victor said. Elena stiffened. "The inspectors." "Not officially," Victor replied, "but connected." He walked, Elena following, until they reached the security room. The camera feed showed the car again. Dark windows, engine running, headlights off. "They are waiting for a mistake," Victor said. "Or a miracle they can control." Elena wrapped her arms around herself. "This is how it happened with my brother." Victor turned to her. "Tell me." She hesitated. "Tell me everything," Victor said. "No filters." Elena inhaled deeply. "They said they were helping," she began. "They said they needed to observe him. They took notes while he cried. They removed him from familiar places. They kept promising progress if we just followed the process." Her voice tightened. He stopped trusting anyone who held a clipboard. Victor closed his eyes. "They took his silence and made it evidence," Elena continued. "And when he didn't improve fast enough, they called it failure." She looked at Victor. "I won't let that happen to Noah." Victor opened his eyes. Something hardened and clarified within them. "Neither will I." The next morning, the escalation came. A formal notice. Temporary suspension of Elena Cruz pending investigation. Recommended placement for Noah, clinical observation facility. Victor read the words twice, then slowly folded the document. "They want to take him," he said. Elena's face drained of color. When? 72 hours, Daniel answered grimly. 72 hours. To dismantle something that had taken 6 years to build, and only weeks to begin healing. Victor stood. No. Daniel looked at him. Sir. We're not reacting, Victor said. We're reframing. Elena frowned. What does that mean? It means, Victor said, we stop playing defense. Victor Hale did not make threats lightly. He made moves. By noon, his legal team was assembled. Child psychologists, not the ones who memorized manuals, but the ones who sat on floors and listened, were flown in quietly. Independent observers with reputations for integrity were invited. Transparency became his weapon. Every camera feed was unlocked. Every session documented. Not edited. Not polished. Truth, raw and undeniable. And then Victor did something no one expected. He spoke. Not to regulators. Not to lawyers. But publicly. A carefully worded statement was released. Not dramatic, not accusatory. Human. My son has lived in silence for 6 years. Not because he had nothing to say, but because the world did not know how to listen. We are choosing a different path. One rooted in patience, safety, and respect. We welcome oversight, but we will not accept harm disguised as procedure. The response was immediate. Support flooded in from parents, educators, specialists who had seen too many children broken by systems that valued speed over safety. The inspectors returned the next day. This time, they did not come alone. They brought observers, and they asked to see Noah. Elena's heart pounded as Noah sat on the rug, wooden bird in his lap. Victor sat nearby, not hovering, not directing, just present. The lead inspector knelt. Noah, she said gently. Noah looked at her, then at Elena, then at Victor. His lips pressed together. Elena resisted every instinct to help. She waited. Noah tapped the bird. Elena smiled softly but said nothing. The inspector waited too. Time stretched. Then Noah looked at Victor. DA, he said. Clearer this time. Victor's breath hitched. The room went very still. The inspector swallowed. Did you hear that? Victor nodded, eyes shining. Yes. Noah frowned, frustrated. He squeezed the bird. D-A-D-Y. The word landed like thunder. Victor covered his mouth, tears spilling freely. Noah watched him closely, then smiled. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't loud. But it was real. The inspector sat back slowly. I see, she said. That afternoon, the recommendation was amended. No removal. No suspension. Instead, monitored continuation under adaptive support. Elena remained. Noah stayed home. The car at the gate never returned. That night, the mansion felt different again. Not heavy, not silent, but open. Victor sat with Noah on the floor, awkward at first, unsure where to put his long legs. Noah leaned against him, a small, warm weight that felt like a second chance. Elena watched from the doorway, tears slipping freely now that she no longer had to be strong alone. Victor looked up at her. Thank you. Elena shook her head. He did the hardest part. Victor nodded. Yes, he said softly. He did. Noah looked up at Victor, eyes bright. D-A-D-Y, he said again, slower, more confident. Victor laughed through tears. I'm here, he whispered. I'm listening. Noah leaned into him, the wooden bird resting between them. And for the first time, the mansion did not echo. It breathed. Lessons from the story. 1. Silence is not emptiness. Just because someone cannot speak does not mean they have nothing to say. Often, silence is full of fear, thought, memory, and waiting. 2. Control is not the same as care. Victor learned that structure without empathy becomes a cage. True care listens before it directs. 3. Children need safety before they need skills. Noah did not find his voice through pressure or programs, but through trust. Growth follows safety, not the other way around. 4. Systems can fail individuals. Procedures are meant to protect, but when they replace compassion, they can become harmful. Question systems that do not make room for humanity. 5. Listening is an act of courage. It takes bravery to sit in uncertainty, to wait without forcing answers. But that courage can change lives. 6. Progress is not linear, and that's okay. Noah's journey was slow, fragile, and imperfect. And yet, it was real. Healing rarely follows schedules. 7. A single voice can challenge power. Elena did not have authority, but she had conviction. And conviction, when rooted in truth, can move even the most rigid structures. We have come to the end of this story. Hope you enjoyed it. We will appreciate if you subscribe to our channel to help us grow and serve you better. Please, like, share, and make your views known in the comments section. At LuxeHeart Stories, we bring to you chilling and thrilling stories. Until the next video, goodbye.